Welcome to this new episode of The Disabled Life. The purpose of this podcast is to tell people how I live my life. The name I'm using on the podcast now is The Disabled Guy, because I felt that you needed to hear something as opposed to just my voice there. I'm a disabled male living in Florida with cerebral palsy. I'm here to tell you how I live my life and some of the volunteer work that I do and how I managed to do it with cerebral palsy. Without further ado, let's go into the episode. Those of you that have been following me for a while know that I had an issue with a blood test where I had to pay a bill. Well, finally, I received the final bill. What I did is I put it on a payment plan. It was 4 bills. It was put in 4, so they would send you a bill every month. But I was let me tell you honestly, I was stressing because I don't have the money to pay the amount of money they wanted all at once. So I had to put an installment plan. Another thing I didn't want is I like to see the money that goes out. Meaning, I don't like to put things on automatic payment because then you forget about it and you go, where did that money go? Where did that money go? So, I say, I don't like to do payment plan because that is not something I like. Another thing that I'm going to tell you about, I have the following. We have a house phone, 2 cell phones, and high-speed internet with my local phone company called AT&T. So they raised the bill by $5. Here's something I don't like. So I call them. They don't tell you. They don't tell you. They write it in so much fine print that you may or may not even know that they're doing this. I think this is something that's unfair because what they're doing here is they are charging you $5, and in order for you to delete the $5 or get it credited back to yourself, you have to put it on auto pay. But I don't like doing auto pay because you don't see what goes out, because mistakes can happen or frauds can happen. I had a situation with a phone with a cell phone one time. I went to call my sister and it said this phone is no longer authorized on this account. So I call the company that it was. I'm not gonna say who it was. I call the company and you know what they tell me? They say, do you use a phone that I use? And I said, what? I said, no ma'am, I didn't use any phone. I didn't buy a phone. So, oh my God. So it became a problem. It was 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And I'll tell you a funny story on this. One of the things that happened, it was funny because so I talked to them and I said, no, and they did this and they changed this code and they turned the fraudulent phones off. So, I get a phone call from a lawyer's office, and they kept calling me, and so I answered it one day, and I said to them, I answered, and I said, who is this? And they said it was a law firm, and I go, I don't know. So I told them, don't call me anymore because, as you know, in Florida, it's illegal. Once you tell someone not to call you, they know because they're a law firm. But let me tell you, that was annoying, having to deal with that over and over again. And let me tell you another one. So they made many phone calls to England, and since I don't call people in England, I have family there. But since I never called there in England, I told them no, I don't know anybody there, and all this. So it's like they finally credited it. It was like total, it was like $100 worth of phone calls. International phone calls on a cell phone is expensive, very, very expensive, and that's something that I was like, oh my God, no, I don't need them to do this stuff. Yeah, so I'm gonna say honestly, yes, it was a difficult situation for me to have to deal with it, to have to deal with all these phone issues. And the thing is, oh, feedback, hold on. Excuse me, let's get back. So, I say it was very difficult for me to deal with this phone situation because this, I'm like, I've never dealt with this before, and I've been having to do it. But the funny, ironic part was the fact that my dad and I had just come from Costa Rica, and and there was no fraud there. But there was somebody cloned a phone. The way they do that is they have this machine. They have this machine that when you go past, because what happens is, for those of you that don't know, the cell phone transmits a key, and if you copy that key, you can put that into any phone, and all the information and phone numbers, etc., except for not the contacts, but all the important information like the credit and the account number and everything gets to you and gets cloned. And honestly, they do this so they can fraud you and they expect you to pay. So no, but it took 3 weeks for this situation to clear itself out. But man, it was still hard to deal with these people. The reason I'm talking about these two bill issues is because I wanted you guys to know that even us disabled people deal with frauds and all this other stuff. It's not something that we like to deal with, but we do. We do, and it's very easy and very hard not to deal with it because you have to live life. There's no way around it. You have to buy what you need and use what you need. So it is very easy, very hard for people to not. It's very hard for people. Imagine the elderly that they don't understand what's going on. It was hard for me. I'm younger and I have the ability I have the thought process to think about how I'm going to handle something. But could you imagine somebody that doesn't have that wherewithal to deal with things like that? It's just hard, but this is life. We have to live with whatever we're doing. So, yeah, that's something that is very difficult to deal with. Fraud and things of that nature. Fraud is something hard because people don't know how much they're hurting you. And they wanted me to pay this. And the funny thing is that they made a mistake, and they made an honest mistake, and they did not. And they didn't do a code, so I had to take it back to the store again. Because they said, if this does not change, you're going to pay. I'm like, So I went back to the store again, and they changed it. It's not something that I wish on anybody. It was hard to deal with. It was really hard because, I'd never done it. But I had to learn how to do it. So it was hard, but I persevered through it and I did it. Another thing that happened is this. Somebody I know's credit card got cloned. And what that means is they do it much easier because, they swipe the card. They swipe the card, and then by some sleight of hand, they copy your numbers. And so that is hard to deal with. But you know what? And sometimes easier for me to do it than for my mom to help, because I know how things are, how difficult it is to deal with this stuff. In closing, let me say thank you for listening to this episode of The Disabled Life. You can follow me on the following platforms. You can follow me at Good Pods. You can leave comments, messages there. You can also follow me on Twitter at The Disabled Guy. And you can also listen to me on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and many others. Once again, thank you for listening, and I'll also give you my email. My email is Kilo Echo 4 Kilo Echo Yankee, or KE4KEY@gmail.com. Once again, thank you, and thank you for your support, and I'll see you next week.